All right, so AOC was at the DNC yesterday. She had her first day. It was pretty nuts for AOC. They had, like, I think Sean Fain there and then a bunch of corporate Democrats. So what's really interesting is we're going to kind of talk about AOC's transformation, kind of what happened at the DNC, and then we're going to kind of talk about AOC's growth. I've sort of actually been covering AOC since the birth. I guess only since the election. I actually live streamed the election results, maybe like 50 people that summer. I still remember, like it was yesterday. But what we have here is you're going to see this footage clip. There's this footage of AOC at the DNC, or the DNC hall is all chanting her name, the entire room. And so this tweet from Daniel Morantz, it says, "Once an outsider, AOC now has the entire DNC hall chanting her name." Go ahead and check this out. Yeah, and so I think this is just super emblematic of AOC and her transformation, because she started out kind of as this rebel inside of the Democratic Party. If you guys remember, like pretty much when she first got elected, she took part in that sit-in at Nancy Pelosi's office. And so she took part in that as her protest that she was doing. And she was she was beefing with Nancy Pelosi, and Nancy Pelosi was throwing barbs and saying like, oh, the Green New Dream or whatever. And so all of this stuff. And so you can see that she's now become embraced by the party. She's somebody who was actually, backing Biden, even in the whole replacement strategy. And so she ended up finding herself in kind of a weird position where she was at odds with someone like a Nancy Pelosi and those kinds of people, Chuck Schumer and all those people who were actually pushing him to actually step down, rigorously pushing him to step down. So what we can see here is just a complete and utter transformation of AOC from this sort of rebel-like figure inside the party to a more widely accepted person. She actually turned her, I think, rhetoric to be less sort of confrontational. I think she dropped, I forgot who it was that was, I don't know if it was Shoykot or if it was Waleed Shahid, I can't remember who was her like campaign manager. She swaps it and becomes kind of less sort of rhetorically, I think, antagonistic towards Democrats. And what I want to show you here is I'm going to show you part of her DNC speech. It's only about 7.5 minutes. I'm not going to show you the whole 7.5 minutes, but it will be like, I don't know, 2 to 4 minutes probably. And you're just going to kind of see what's going on in terms of the energy, sort of the excitement, and also the rhetoric that she's explaining. And I want you guys to listen to it and kind of soak that in.
That same cloth of hope and aspiration, we will also elect Kamala Harris and Tim Walz as President and Vice President of the United States of America. I am here tonight because America has before us a rare and precious opportunity. In Kamala Harris, we have a chance to elect a president who is for the middle class because she is from the middle class. She understands the urgency of rent checks and groceries and prescriptions. She is as committed to our reproductive and civil rights as she is to taking on corporate greed. And she is working tirelessly to secure a ceasefire in Gaza and bringing hostages home. In Kamala Harris, I see a leader who understands. I see a leader with a real commitment to a better future for working families. And Chicago, we have to help her win. Because we know that Donald Trump would sell this country for $1 if it meant lining his own pockets and greasing the palms of his Wall Street friends. And I, for one, am tired of hearing about how a two-bit union buster thinks of himself as more of a patriot than the woman who fights every single day to lift working people out from under the boots of greed, trampling on our way of life. The truth is, Don, you cannot love this country if you only fight for the wealthy and big business. To love this country is to fight for its people, all people, working people, everyday Americans like bartenders and factory workers and fast food cashiers who punch a clock and are on their feet all day in some of the toughest jobs out there. You know, ever since I got elected, Republicans have attacked me by saying that I should go back to bartending. But let me tell you, I'm happy to any day of the week because there is nothing wrong with working for a living. Imagine having leaders in the White House who understand that. Leaders like Kamala and Tim. But Chicago, just because the choice is clear to us does not mean that the path will be easy. Over the next 78 days, we will have to pour every ounce, every minute, every moment into making history on November 5th. But we cannot send Kamala and Tim to the White House alone. Together, we must also elect strong Democratic majorities in the House and in the Senate so that we can deliver on an ambitious agenda for the people. Because if you are a working parent trying to afford rent and childcare, Kamala is for you. If you are a senior who had to go back to work because your retirement didn't stretch far enough, Kamala is for you. If you're an immigrant family just starting your American story, Kamala is for you. America, when we knock on our neighbor's door, organize our communities, and elect Kamala Harris to the presidency on November 5th, we will send a loud message that the people of this nation will not go back. We choose a new path and open the door to a new day, one that is for the people and by the people. Thank you. Thank you very much. God bless. God bless you all.
Wow. How about that AOC? Good Lord.
Yeah, man. So I have a lot of thoughts on this, actually. So you can see the energy here is just absolutely insane. It's crazy. The energy is unreal. And so from the ones that I had watched, I didn't watch like all of the speeches, but you know, from like even like a lot of the speeches were pretty boring. They weren't exciting. The crowd reception was also not like super hype like Hillary's and even Raskin's or those kind of speeches. But this is definitely like one of the biggest, if not the biggest, in terms of energy. The energy is just absolutely insane. The crowd is going crazy. What's even crazy too here, you can see it's like sort of like kind of older people like geezers, so it's not even like young people that are just like going crazy. You can see Jesse Jackson there just going crazy, but you can see like people are like standing up. It's like older people, you know, like 50, 60-year-old, you know, probably wine moms and stuff just going crazy, right? So it's indicative, I think, that she's really expanded her voter base, her support base into kind of the more mainstream Democratic thing. And again, I think she kind of switched up her rhetoric and her strategy. I think her strategy was, hey, like we can't really get much done as like 4 rebels in the House or whatever, even if we expand to like 8 people or whatever. So I think her plan is a more long-term strategy where it's like, okay, as demographics change, you know, it's predicted, projected, perceived that there's going to be sort of this shift that ends up happening where you have like a more sort of progressive electorate, so there will be like more progressive possibilities, frontier curve for policies. And so she ended up making this. And so So you can see the energy is insane. Her support base, it's not like a bunch of young people where it's like a bunch of young people just like going crazy. It's like you can see it's like wine moms and like 50-year-old, the 50-year-old wine moms that look like meth heads and stuff like that, the white women like that. She's just got them going crazy. And Jesse Jackson's like, whoa, the energy is just off the charts, man. It's crazy. But I have conflicting feelings because she never really mentions anything really progressive in here at all, if anything, if even one thing. And honestly, seeing this speech kind of made me feel nostalgic for the old AOC. I think I even actually managed to somehow take that for granted because now, she was backing Biden, and then, also now she doesn't really mention anything. There's no Medicare for all, and there's like no ending war, like none of the like kind of specific sort of meat and potatoes things to go for and go after that really made her unique and made her what she was. And so I think this is the unfortunate trade-off where if you're trying to expand your voter base in the Democratic Party so you can seize more power in the future, I think the downside is you end up having to water down your message. At least I'm hoping it's temporary. I'm hoping it's temporary watered down because otherwise it would be really concerning. But I can see why AOC would lose a lot of her original OG voter base or support base of like young people or whatever. At least from this, you can kind of see like she's definitely not in that same vein, and she definitely doesn't have like that rebel streak anymore where it's I think in one interview when she got elected, it's kind of like, hey, like, are you a Democrat kind of thing, and she was kind of talking about it or whatever. I think she's definitely firmly a Democrat now, a Democratic member, and she's kind of falling more in line. And so even though I think that it's good that she's expanding her voter base, because I think the long-term strategy is better for actually getting progressive policies, because I think that it maximizes your ability, and you can't really do very much as one congresswoman, sort of in the House, and maybe you have like a couple of friends or whatever. It's going to be really, really hard to be able to, do almost anything basically. But if you kind of play the long game and think of it as like, okay, well, I'm kind of gunning for the presidency maybe in 2032, for example, or maybe I'm in a position where I can heavily influence the election, where maybe Tim Walz, I can push him or something, but it does have me feeling nostalgic, and I could see why a lot of people are kind of like, who are original supporters of AOC, might be less interested, because you lose your uniqueness factor when this is what you become, because you've kind of just formed into what already exists in abundance, right? There's a lot of the Democrats out there who are saying, he's a union buster or whatever, and, Kamala Harris worked at McDonald's and all this other stuff. Like, everyone's saying that, basically. So there's nothing unique about AOC that makes her unique in this scenario. And so, although I'm glad to see she's expanding her voter base, has me feeling nostalgic for AOC. And again, I really do hope that this is just sort of her rhetoric as opposed to her actual beliefs. I hope her beliefs hold strong, because we do need strong fighters for things like Medicare for all, for example. And, we need that in the future. So hopefully that's something that she's just doing, this sort of tempering down in favor of those things, in favor of pushing those things forward, is my personal hope. But it's also sad to see, because Kamala Harris has taken the world by storm, but we're also in a state of where I'm like, why has she taken storm? And she doesn't support any actual real progressive policy. She walked back Medicare for all, free college education, free federal jobs guarantee. She walked all that stuff back, and she walked that stuff like pretty much 1 year into the Biden administration. She also has a really bad history of lying about the positions she supports. So I'm not really sure why people are super excited, but I will be excited for the point where we can finish this out and hopefully switch the fight to, okay, now we need to hold your feet to the fire and you need to do real progressive shit. Otherwise, we're going to riot, right? Kind of thing, like fight back kind of thing. So I'm excited for that. So I think as soon as we can finish off Donald Trump, we can get to that point. So hopefully we can get there. But, mixed feelings on here, but I think AOC has long-term prospects, and I think in this position, she does have a real possibility of sort of taking serious power in the party in the future down the line, in which position she could get like a vice presidency or a presidency, which has much more power than, where she's at. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on this down below. Are you sort of an AOC fan? I know we've gotten a lot of subscribers who I think are kind of more coconuts, so it's probably more liberals on here are going to be more sympathetic towards what AOC is doing here. So I'd be more curious about hearing from sort of like, I guess I'd like to hear from those the coconut perspectives as well. But, if you're sort of an OG AOC supporter from 2018, when she was beefing with Nancy Pelosi or whatever, definitely curious to hear your thoughts down below. I feel very ambivalent about this. I'm excited she's expanding her voter base, but at the same time, it's like, man, her speech doesn't hit the same for me, because it's sort of the same as the, whatever corporate Democrat speech is. I want to hear about Medicare for all and those kinds of things, like that sort of unique, sort of progressive ideology. She's not really delivering on that. And then I can see why there would be like a lot of the OG AOC supporters who are kind of like, dude, like, what happened, man? Like, what happened? You know what I mean? Like, ¿qué pasó? Like, what happened? So definitely interesting stuff to see. But man, I mean, the whole crowd just chanting AOC, like, she's definitely increased her voter base, even to the point where like the 50-year-old meth head white wine moms are going crazy for her, standing up with the signs. I mean, just wow, just crazy, man, crazy.